Okay, three, two, one. Hello and welcome to the Dragon Slayer podcast, your home all things Dragons RFC and rugby in the region. I'm Jamie, and joining me as always is Gavin Thomas. How are we doing, Gav?
I'm very well, Jamie, very well. My club missed out on finishing the league season unbeaten yesterday. We lost at home to our biggest rivals, but other than that, I'm coping.
Oh, that's a shame, isn't it? It's not been a good weekend results-wise. Dragons, Newport County, Wales women,
Yeah.
your team as well. So it's not the best weekend, really, is it, for
No,
results?
not ideally.
No. Okay, so you can find us on platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and the Sports Social Network. And if you like what we do, please rate us and leave us a good review, as it all helps to grow the pod. Right then, Gav, so tonight we are joined by a special guest, a former Dragon who made 140 appearances for the region between 2003 and 2009. He also won caps for Wales A and Wales Sevens before two senior Wales caps against Japan in 2001. Welcome to the pod, Jamie Ringer. How are you doing, Jay?
Cheers, guys. Yeah, great to be here. My pleasure. Yes. Just going through about that. Just going through what you've been saying. Then it seems like yesterday, but it seems like forever ago. But no, great. My fondest memories, I would say, is my time at the Dragons. Great times, great supporters, great club, or great region, shall I say? Sorry, slip of the tongue. But no, great times.
Oh, great. Nice one. Good to hear you say that. So we'll ask you what we ask all our guests, all the former players. How did your journey into rugby begin? Where did it all start for you there, Jay?
I started for me my junior Dennis Powis rugby. So at so they I don't know whether you remember, maybe before your time, but there was I was coached by a guy called Peter Pearce, who was the father of the Athletic ex-outside half and turned rugby league Gary Pearce. I don't know if you remember Gary Pearce, but
Yeah.
brilliant player in his own right. Ended up going north. I think he went to Hull. But Peter was a massive influence on my early years as rugby. People think sometimes, oh, his dad played rugby and what have you, but I'd say Peter, as much as dad's always been supportive, but Peter, from an early age, I played from the age of 6. And no, Dennis Powers, great junior club. I played there till I was youth rugby. My last year of youth rugby, I went to Cardiff Youth. So yeah, I'd say Peter was a major influence on me. It's good. As well as brought through some other good pros. They went with John Calderley, who played for Newport and Pontypridd centre. So yeah, no, we had a lot of good talent came through that area at that time. But yeah, those were the early years.
Yeah, and of course your dad, Paul Ringer, who also played for Wales. And I just wondered, Jay, did you find that family name was a help or hindrance early in your career? Like, did you feel under pressure to sort of live up to those standards? I just wonder.
Well, he was he pretty much he done everything the wrong way. So I would say pretty much a hindrance on my career, to be honest with you. He was pretty much anti-establishment type of guy, great dad, love him to bits, and great guy, and he's loved by many. But bloody hell, he went against the grain in every possible way you could mean. But yeah, sometimes I didn't think about it too much. You try and get on with what you're doing, and try and be as good as you can be, and try and people accept you for who you are. And almost kind of forget about it. But sometimes you can't win, because sometimes you get in certain places you have to work extra hard. Sometimes because people think you're only there because your dad played and what have you. But sometimes that it's a double-edged sword, really, in that respect. But to be honest with you, it didn't really bother me. I'm honest. I think maybe there was a couple of times I don't go into. There was a move to another Welsh club which I was due to sign for, but a bit of background politics happened, which I won't kind of go into too much. But there was a reason why I never joined the club. It was one of his ex-clubs. But yeah. No, he's been although someone that he's always been there, and it's nice to have someone to lean on who's played rugby at the highest level. But I'd say more of a hindrance.
You must have heard that story so many times about you getting sent off at Twickenham, though, was there?
Yeah.
Many people have spoke to you about that.
But I tell you what's great is that I thought that I knew everything, but then I watched the program Slam, which is an amazing show.
Yeah.
And to watch that and find out a bit of detail about actually what went on in that game, and the thing about that game is Terry Holmes was my coach at Cardiff, who was someone that I used to go and watch in the stands. My nan used to take me to the Arms Park, and he's a hero of mine. Ended up being my coach, who I was just in awe of. Who Terry, and then to see him and John Scott, he kicked John Scott in the back of the head in the one clip. They were teammates. I played golf with John Scott in Whitchurch, and I just think to myself, this is absolute craziness. You know, it was in the first 15, 20 minutes, everyone was trying to kick everyone in the back of the head. It was taking the eyes on the back of your head job, and it was and they played club rugby together.
Yeah.
So what chance did anyone else have? So and then obviously Dad, as he said to me, flicked the mascara off the fella's eye and had his marching orders. But I think if you look through the timeline, I think the Wales Online did something. The actual timeline was like Rorke's Drift, wasn't it? I mean, it was a case of the next person to step out of line was going, wasn't it? One of them situations. He's lost control of the game, the ref. But the thing that actually gripped me with Islam was it was the political background to it all as well. It wasn't just the French game where the French complained about the Welsh brutality, Jean-Pierre Rives in particular. But it was the political background, what was going on in Wales at the time. It was kind of us against the world type of job, wasn't it, at the time? And the sad thing was people saw that game as the demise of Welsh rugby for a good sort of 8 to 10 years, didn't they? Period after that, really.
Yeah, it certainly did.
Yeah, and the issue was, as a fan, clearly, it wasn't just about that one result, was it? It was about where the game was going at that time, and England were ahead of us just into England had picked the game up and had not professionalised, but they were certainly better organised than us, and that's where it came from. And then we lost an entire generation to rugby league, like your dad went as well, didn't you?
Well, I think that was it. I think that it's easy to pinpoint the game and say that's where it all went wrong, but we were teetering on the back of, an era of legends and exceptional talent. I mean, you could align that slightly with a little bit of what's going on now, really, where you have a golden generation of players that come along, and sometimes just go through phases where things are good and things aren't so good. But Dad went to rugby league for the Cardiff Blue Dragons, as did Tommy David, as did Steve Fenwick, Brynmore. Who could blame them in the times where you were all that? I mean, it hits home when you remember, I think, Glenn Webb, when they went to the World Cup, he said about what the Kiwis were doing, and they were working jobs. Oh, God, that was God sent, and trying to get training in and play and miss work. It just, I haven't been lucky enough to be paid to play the game I love for so many years. The sacrifice of them boys made for nothing it was unbelievable.
Oh yeah, and it was a different game as well. It wasn't far less well policed as proven by the game we talked about there.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up, Jamie, you clearly played a similar position to your dad. Was that a conscious thing, or was that just coaches saying, "You're a big lad, you're strong. This is where you need to play"?
I tried my best earlier on to stay in the backs, if I'm honest, but I got steadily moved closer and further in. So I tried to mini rugby. I played sort of 9 and sort of went in the centre, but then gradually told to get in the back row. So that just I don't know. I can't actually remember actually put me in there, but I was pretty much told to play there. They gravitated towards a position, I suppose, what it means.
Your natural talents pointed you in that direction.
Yeah, but no, it's it's for me, back row is the rules of such a, but it's the best of both worlds, really. In my opinion, you get to it's an amazing position to play, either 6, 7, or 8. Again, to get a bit of both worlds of playing, being one of the glory boys now and again, to being stuck in with the front 5,
So, as a player, Jamie, you were hard carrying, you were very physical. Why aren't we producing players like that in Wales at the minute? Because we haven't got blokes who can get over the game, then we haven't got blokes who just smack people out of a rack legally.
Good question.
Do you know what? I was just having the chat the other day. I think we even though we've never been a huge nation, when I go back to think about sort of my era and some of the people that are around, like Sir Colin Jarvis, your Craig Quinnells, Mike Voiles, Chris Wyatt played six back row. You're talking about Moriarty's around. Moriarty was still around towards the back end then. There were some confrontational, big, tough forwards around, and at the moment, we're just for some reason or another. And I brought up, some guys. I brought up the other day just about the strength in depth. Now, you've got to say that regional rugby, in terms of the academies of the young players that we produce, you can't argue that it's worked in some areas. But I just question sometimes. I don't know whether it's players' numbers or the fact that we've seen the end of an era of some of the schools rugby that was so strong back when I was a kid, but we just haven't got the same strength and depth. And whether or not people want to argue against that, it's the truth, because sides are finding it hard to club side, junior sides are finding it hard to find players. I just don't think we're not producing as many players, and it's a numbers game, isn't it? And I think also I'll add on to that, I just think that football in my era, in terms of the City and Swansea, they weren't having the same success. I think more kids are playing football into the sports now. I think just generally, you're putting sort of numbers into a hopper at the top, and you get some things that come out the bottom. The more and more you put in the top, the more chance you've got of producing players. And I just think there's less. I could be wrong. Yes, and I'm no numbers, but I just think there's probably less numbers.
Because we're creating back rows who are good at the breakdown, Tommy Rafael and Grant Morgan. But what we aren't getting are the likes of you, Jarvis, Moriarty, who are just going to pick the ball up, run at people, and make them tackle them.
I think. Do you know what? I was watching the Dragons game last night, and I don't watch loads of rugby now, but I watch enough to see that the Dragons, in my opinion, if they got to set the back row, if Ollie Griffiths is fit. But I scratch in my head thinking, why doesn't Tane Basham play 8? In my opinion, he's more of an 8. Another situation where I struggle to think, where Wales are struggling for carriers at the moment, Faletau's out, why he hasn't been given a go at 8. Why he got dropped out at the 23, I don't know the inside of what, but he's definitely one for me has got that, And also I see that was one of the first games, I could be wrong, but one of the first I've seen him play actually start at 8 last evening. And for me, if you put him 8, Ollie Griffiths is back for 7, and then Wainwright 6 or the other one, then there's not many back rows, in my opinion. That's fantastic back row. But I just think he's definitely one that can cart ball, and we're not producing endpoint players at the minute.
No.
So
he played better last night than he has done for a while for Dragons, to be honest. And
is that because he played 8, or because every time I see him, they seem to be playing him at 7? Really, am I wrong? Has he had many starts at 8?
No, he's predominantly been 7. He does play most of his rugby at 7, and Wainwright plays at 8 a lot. If Wainwright's about,
I don't know whether you've got the mix. I don't know whether, for me, the balance of a back row is everything for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
The best back row I played in was probably me, Fozzie, and Michael Owen. It's all about balance, isn't it? So, and I just don't know whether they've quite got that right. They've got an abundance of talent, in my opinion. Yeah, I know it hasn't quite happened, but I look on and think the talent's there with them in so many areas. But they've been unlucky with a couple of injuries at key positions, and Ollie Griffiths is a huge player for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just with Ollie, he's never fit, and that's the problem, isn't it? He's injured at the moment. It's just really, really difficult. With Tane Bash, he did play a 8 in our last game against Ulster. He was very good then. But I think there's a question mark with Tane at 8 over his size. Perhaps that's why he's not been considered at 8. But you're saying, Jays, you prefer him at 8 rather than
I just think you just got to look at the way that he carries ball. He's direct, and for me, and he's quick off the base. It's not all about it being for him off the base there. You've got to be quick now in that position to get off the ball, straighten your angle up, and get off the back of the base of the scrum. And for me, even if you play him 7, why can't you slot him in at 8? It's just he's got to do what's best for you, whatever's best to do in that position. But it's only listen. I sometimes you've got guys who are in that environment day in, day out, that Di Flan and the boys there. They know 10 times more than I know. But the perception, what I see is I'm surprised he never got more of a crack with Wales, because they were severely lacking ball carriers and sort of game breakers to get over that gain line. I thought he would have at least added something coming off the bench.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I think he only made one appearance in the Six Nations, didn't he?
Yeah.
Which I think is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, but he came on late. I can't remember what game it was. The game he got beat.
England, I think.
Oh yeah,
It was
came on, played 5 minutes, and then was dropped out of all obscurity. So that's a head scratcher.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and don't get me wrong, the boy that came from Cardiff, young lad. You know, his work rate's fantastic, but we've got no one in there of any size, have we?
No,
really, you know, and you take Aaron's performance of carrying the ball in the one game we played. I can't think he was outstanding. Who do we play? Is it against Ireland? And it was we could argue was man of the match. But yeah, I just think that's I just going back to the original point. Just not producing big, powerful men at the moment, and it's a real worry, isn't it? Let's be honest, because without Faletau doing that job for us, he's not that type of player. Mind, he uses footwork. He's for me, looking on, he's a player that I would pay to watch. Like, he's just a world class player, in my opinion. You know, and somewhere we've been very, very lucky to have.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Can't argue with that. So,
I watched him.
Jamie,
I was finishing my career at Cardiff, semi-pro, and I think he was playing for Cross Keys. He was starting his career, and I was just like, he was just gliding around the field, and I just thought, this kid's the real deal. You know, he just watched someone the way they move around the field, and I just thought, you know, it's long beyond. He's just done. For me, he's probably been one of the best number 8 Wales I've ever had.
Yeah, definitely the best Dragon as well. That's ever got on the Dragon shirt.
And a great
about that.
Unassuming, great lad, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, then. So you won 2 Wales caps whilst you were playing for Bridgend. Both of those caps came against Japan on the summer tour of 2001. You came on as a replacement in Osaka and Tokyo.
Yeah.
What are your memories from that tour there, Jay? And were you nervous at all about making your Wales debut?
No, it was all sort of last minute, because I think there was an injury. I think Goffey, funny enough, got injured, and he decided not to take second row. And I remember I played against Caerphilly last game of the season, and I actually had an injury myself. I actually tore my PCL, and then they rang me up, and then I got the call to say, and I was in a situation of trying to get fit myself, but I actually didn't say to them, "Oh, listen, I picked up an injury," and I just managed to get. To this day, it was something in my career I never had it operated on. I just sort of rehabbed it and managed to get the tour, but I actually wasn't fully fit. But it's not the sort of chance you're going to give up, is it? So I kind of cobbled my way through the training to get there, and it was fantastic times. Albeit, you know, I think I probably played rugby. I played better rugby. So the irony is, I was playing, I think, better rugby later on in my career than I was actually when I got capped. But you know, I think I left Cardiff when Martin Williams signed there. Would have been what year? Would that have been 2000, around that period? No, 2099.
Yeah, 99 was the Martin Williams went there.
Yeah, and Dennis John rang me up. Dennis went there and said, listen, told me his plan of what he wanted to do and the players he wanted to bring in, and I wanted to play. You know, I didn't want to hang around and be part of the squad. And Martin was a top player, and I understood my chances were going to be limited, and you want to play. So that decision was vindicated by getting game time and being capped. So and Dennis was a great coach and really great, enjoyable times. And Gareth Thomas was signed back there. Dad went there, signed a lot of good players, and qualified for the European Cup as well. So some good times.
That was a good Bridgend team, wasn't it? Yeah. That around that time.
Yeah. No, we done. It was some good times, and I mean everything sort of, as you say, it sort of all come round to what happened then. With obviously it was the whispers coming around about regional rugby and what have you. But when you consider how many teams we had there and some of the players that were going around, there was although it just the word for me that kind of makes it hard to understand is that. We had sort of the amount of players that we had in certain positions, but yet we were told we had to go into regional rugby because there wasn't enough players to go around. But now we sort of, it seems to be, if you look in certain positions, i.e. hooker and sort of 10 at the moment, albeit the ones who are actually eligible, that were so thin on the ground, some positions, aren't they? So,
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So after you retired from playing rugby in 2014, you went into coaching then with the Cardiff Blues Academy, and then you spent 2 seasons as a defence coach at Merthyr before finally calling it the day for rugby. Just wondering, Jay, why did you decide to knock coaching on the head?
Yeah,
it's something different. Did you fall out of love with the game?
No, yeah, well, I kind of say I was enjoyed my time coaching at the Blues Academy. Richard Hodges gave me an opportunity there, did my badges, and I loved my time there. I coached some top players, Callum Sheedy being one standout player that I coached at that time. And then I was sort of encouraged, the word would be, to go for a job at Whitchurch High. And to say I was cheesed off is an understatement. Anyway, I didn't get the job, which I thought I was qualified to get. And I just thought to myself, you know what? This is probably not for me. And I went in a completely different direction. Went into sort of commercial finance. And I've been in the same game. It's probably the best thing that ever happened to me, if I'm honest. You know, at the time, I was devastated, thinking, what a load of what this is. And if I'm not qualified to do this job, then I don't know, and you think to yourself, and then I've gone into a completely different industry, and it's been, touch wood, it's been really good for me. So it's fun, albeit though, then I had sort of, in between that period of time, I coached at Cardiff RFC, coached the defence there, and then went to Merthyr. So I had great times at Merthyr because I went there with Jarve when they were just on the up Div 1 championship, and I sort of went in with them into the Prem. So great people. A guy called Peter Morgan was involved then, as team manager, who actually was at the Blue Dragons with my dad. Great characters, and it kind of took it back to me, to what it was all about in the beginning. You know what I mean? I kind of, but then work was getting sort of busy, and I just didn't, and I was having to get up there twice a week. And I just said to the guys, listen, the chief was there at the time, and I said, listen, I can't give you the time that the job needs, really. So no, but left on great terms, and really enjoyable time at Merthyr.
Oh, good stuff. Do you miss it at all, though, Jay? Rugby, like coaching? Do you think,
no,
give it a crack, or you're glad to be out of it now? Completely
I'm not. Do you know what? I'm not. I'm not. I don't miss it. And that's the barometer, really, isn't it? Really, I thought to myself, if I do miss it, then you've got to ask yourself a question. Maybe you should get back involved. But no, and you've got to respect the guys who are involved, because it changes. The game, it changes all the time. You've got to be up to speed. If you want to be going in and out of something and cobbling the job, really. But no, I mean, I love the game. Also, as well, my eldest, I went through with him. He played at Penarth to like under 16s level, and went through with him, coached with his side. That was highly enjoyable, and that was enough for me, really. So I've kind of just like to watch the odd game, really, now and but I still love the game. But
oh yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, let's talk about Wales then. So first wooden spoon in the Six Nations since 2003. Wales have now lost 12 of the past 13 Six Nations matches. What did you make of it, Jay? Do you think Warren Gatland has lost his golden touch?
I think, listen, I think that they, to a certain extent, you've got to understand that he's probably thinking, right, I need to start from scratch here now, pick some guys, could try and get some depth in some areas. Some boys aren't even playing regional rugby or getting caps. And I understand what he's trying to say, because he's probably, I know the one boy from Penarth, Evan Lloyd, he's going on, physical ability, and where that boy can get to rather than where he is now. And I get that completely, and he potentially he's a specimen of a boy, and he's probably thinking he can pull him on in certain areas. But my only worry was, and it's all very well picking these youngsters, but I think they need, certain areas. I watched the Italian game, and their attacking structure compared to us, that stood out to me. Because I think defensively, I thought we've had loads of guts. You can't fault.
Yeah.
You can't fault the attitude of the players. I thought that Mike Ford, I think defensively we've been decent, and I think you can't. In fact, their attitude of some of these players, the young boys are coming, has been fantastic. But for me, one area of real concern for me was looking at the attacking shape for Italy as opposed to us stood out a mile. Just through the options and how sort of one-dimensional we look. Some of the stuff was stuff that is some of the structures we were using back bloody when I was playing, which is donkeys years ago. It looked quite poor, really, in attack.
It was
and
very
whether,
basic, wasn't it? It was lots of
yeah,
one-up runners. And, you can defend that. You can, the terrible level I play at, we defend. So God knows at
yeah.
the national level.
And I mean, the only thing I would say is when I spoke to one of the guys who's a British rider, I won't mention his name, who's been in many of his squads, and he just said that where the Steel of March was, he used to work them so hard, they were so fit, but what his point was, everyone's fit now. And I just think that, that some of these sides are coached to be so smart now, you only got to look how well coached Ireland are. And I just think maybe we just fallen behind a little bit in that area. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's kind of the perception for me, especially in attack. We didn't look great, and you only got to look at in terms of I don't know how many line breaks and what the stats were, but for me, I watched the game from behind the post against Italy, and their shape in terms of they always had the man up option up the back. We just looked to very one-dimensional, and that was a bit of a worry for me.
We made 4 line breaks in the entire tournament.
Do we?
Yeah, that was the stat. We were, the next lowest was 8 or 9.
See, and I mean that says it. That says everything. But I honestly think that it's easy to. I think he may have to make some harsh choices in terms of some of the coaches around him. No doubt, you can't argue that what he brings to as a coach manager. I've been inside the ropes, if you like, on some of the Wales sessions, and he'll pop in and out a certain session, but he relies heavily on his coaches. He's more of a manager, team manager, than he is a coach. And if that's the case, then he's got to bring the people in to do the job, haven't you? I mean, because the stats don't lie, do they?
No, we are not in a good place right now.
No,
and I understand what he's trying to do with blood players, but if you're on the end of a shellacking every week, it's not a good thing, is it? If you're losing every week, it's difficult to motivate yourself as a player then. Well,
I mean, if you're a youngster there, they just need a bit more support, need more help, don't they? They need more direction, they need better coaching. It's as simple as that. And I just think because you can't felt that the attitude that they showed throughout the tournament, some of these guys has been fantastic. But let's be honest, some of the English game in particular showed some amazing dog and fight to stay hanging there from that game. So there was pluses. I mean, it's easy to get down and say we haven't got this, we haven't got that, but for me, it's more of a worry is the general feel and where we're going in Welsh rugby in particular, as opposed to at the very top,
Yeah, okay. Well, here's a question for you now then, Jay, right? So we know that Welsh rugby is going through a pretty tough time at the moment. The Welsh regions are struggling in the URC. Dragons are currently rock bottom in the league. The Welsh under-20s, Gavin touched on earlier, the physicality and power, we just look underdeveloped compared to other nations. The women's game does seem to be in a better place. But here's a question, Phil. Is Welsh rugby in crisis? And what do you think are the main problems? What does Welsh rugby need to get right? I know it's a tricky question to answer, but where do you feel Welsh rugby is going wrong?
I think I'll take it back to. I tell you what. I think when I was playing, I think there was a major balls up when I was playing. I played in the Rebel season at Cardiff when we played against the English clubs in Swansea, Opera, and the fallout of that, which was great, was I think we were offered 6 places in the English League, and I think 2 in the Championship, wasn't it? I think 6 and 2, and they wanted 8, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right. They wanted 8. Yeah,
that was an absolute. I don't think we've recovered. It might sound like a big statement, but I don't think we've recovered from that point, because commercially wise, it was huge. It would be huge for Welsh rugby, and I think we still need that. But also, I think the good point is for that at the moment is there's been periods in that time where they haven't needed us anymore. But I think equally, I think they need us now. And I think potentially that's what's got to happen. I think somehow there's got to be some kind of Anglo-Welsh sort of tie-up, whether or not it's tied up with the Irish clubs and with the obviously English clubs. I don't know, but I think some kind of British league's got to happen. I think commercially it's got to happen to make everything viable, because even the English clubs are struggling. We've got salary caps everywhere, and you've got to start worrying for where it's all going, really. And I will say that I read Di Flan's interview that he gave in terms of where they're looking to spend the money. I think if you start thinking, I also, Jiffy spoke on a podcast about, where we should go, because there'll be talks of cutting it down to 3. I don't think that's the way forward. Just cutting down your pool again even more. But then, the Dragons, as much as we are going to come under fire to say, well, hang on, have a look at the win percentage. They're the weak side. But in my opinion, if you look behind the scenes, commercially, in my opinion, they've got everything in place for this to be successful. There's a couple of things got to fall into place. They're going to have to, in terms of when the salary cap maybe moves a bit, they're going to have to try and bring in some world-class players in key positions. I think will be important for the club, as well as developing what we have in terms of the pathway, in terms of facilities, and everything that Dyfan's spoken about. That's where the money should be spent. But what I will say on that is, couple that with, you do need to start putting on you've got to start winning on the field, because fans, as much as there's diehards at the Dragons will be there week in, week out, and have done so for years and years when it hasn't been so good. You do need to put a product on the field that people are going to want to come to see. And over the years, I don't say I'm talking about the ones that are going to put in your likes of your Gary Teichmans, your Percy Montgomerys. These came here and brought on other players. It's not just about what they're bringing to the table. It's about, you think about the Ospreys and you talk about Justin Tipuric, the Marty Hollers, and in terms, you can't tell me they didn't make Justin Tipuric a better player. So there's an argument to say, oh, no, you're not paying foreigners to come over here and swap money away. You've got to understand if you're bringing the right ones, they're having an effect and rubbing off on kids around them. That's important as well. So I think the Dragons are in a position to you could, off the field, they're probably in a better space than any of the regions, you could argue. There's talk of Abu Dhabi being involved with the Cardiff region. But the people they've got behind, in terms of on the board, are world-class operators. So I just think that I just think they need a little bit of nous in certain positions, I do, where we're just lacking a little bit of, especially in tight games. Sometimes I watch them and just think they just can't quite get over the line, or have the nous to get over the line. I think sometimes you can just need the odd seasoned player to bring that in. I mean, Angus O'Brien being missing this year has been a huge miss for them as well, I think, I just think we lack experience in a couple of key positions, and you've got to say, like, they brought through they've got some great talent coming through, but like you said, you can't keep saying, oh, we're playing good stuff and we're bringing kids through, because sooner or later, people are going to say, well, that's all right, but you've lost again.
No, that's fair enough. We've talked about a lot in our pod, so we completely agree with you. Do you think the coaching and pathways are fit for purpose in Wales, though, Jay? Or what do you make of the standard of coaching, bringing through the kids? Is that working?
I think I was having a chat about this the other day as well. All I say is, in certain areas, I think sometimes, this might be controversial, but we haven't always got to say, be picking coaches in Wales. Sometimes in key positions inside the camp, we need to get the best coaches, no matter where they are.
Absolutely agree.
It doesn't matter. So they haven't always got to be Welsh, and sometimes got the thing where we just have to bring in the best coaches.
Agree.
And I think sometimes, I don't know whether or not we have got that. Sometimes we have, sometimes we haven't. But I think we just need to be scouting and bringing in the best coaches that we can. I mean, I noticed that the Cardiff have brought in the South African forwards coach. I just think there's been a kind of an encouragement in the past to making sure that we're bringing through employing Welsh coaches, and that's fine. But we're looking to keep all players in Wales, and then we're looking to bring. But it's we can't have it all, can we?
No.
And I just think sometimes you've got to put up a post for a job. It is worldwide now, isn't it? The best player get best person, best coach gets the job. So I just question that sometimes, whether or not in the pathway, whether or not they're getting the best coaching. I don't know. And also, I'm not that well informed now at the moment to sort of be to have the right opinion probably in some of these academies. But for me, that's what stood out. The guys I speak to would say, I just think we need to be employing better coaches. And I think rather than spending the money sometimes on playing budgets, you could argue that a bit more could be spent there.
No, I agree. That's fair enough, isn't it, Gaff?
It's the Irish model, isn't it? The Irish model, they just have quality coaching all the way down. And by the time these lads are 20 and getting to Leinster, they've already been coached in the Leinster way at their clubs and the academy and everything else.
Conveyor belt job, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Leinster are doing.
Yeah, and I think that's and I think that's kind of feel among some of the boys who have played international rugby and have come out of it. I think that's kind of what they're talking about, you know.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, let's talk about your time at the Dragons, then, Jay. So, as I said, you did 140 appearances for the club. How do you look back on your time at Rodney Parade? It sounds like you look back on it with a lot of fondness.
Amazing times, and it was kind of like, you know, I mean, it kicked off the first season. It could only happen. It was like we went into administration, but it kind of got, you know, we were all thinking, Jesus Christ, we just started this new era. Trust us to pick the region that beating goes bust, and you know what? It was one of them situations where we just round the wagons, everyone pulled in tight. It was us against the world, and we just had that edge about us. And also, we was like, everyone else has got this and that, even though they might not have. We just felt like we had the worst facilities. We had a pitch which only had drainage in the one end. We were training in a leisure centre in Cwmbran. And we used to train. Martin Hazel built us a shed next to the stand, which had no heaters. We used to have a propane burner in there when it was like -5. Your hands used to stick to the weights, but all that, wrap that into one, was the reason why we just, you know, it was a horrible place to come to, and we had some horrible players in there too that were very nice. So it was like we definitely had edge for that reason, and I think. It's not so easy with these boys because they've got some amazing facilities there now. They've got a brand new pitch, but people didn't like coming there. And but we had great times. And Mike and Clive, we had a huge success with them in the first. Well, we got into the last game of the season. We could have won it, and just for a while, we went ahead against Leinster at Lansdowne Road, and I think we were top of the league for a bit.
Yeah.
And then so I think after that, it was quite bizarre because Declan Kidney came in, introduced himself to the squad, said how much he was looking forward to coming to the squad, and then he took a job with Ireland, didn't he, or something happened?
I remember that. Yeah, he was announced as the coach, wasn't he?
He came and met us.
Yeah.
Just say,
really?
how much he was looking forward to. I said, that's great. Yeah, good to meet you. Anyway, that was the last we seen of him. He went off to other pastures new, and then we had Chris Anderson. And mate, listen, Chris, I think would be honest and say that he was limited on his knowledge of rugby union, but he was great for me. Real hard-nosed Aussie. We were extremely fit. Worked us at one point, worked us to breaking point. You know, I think he was kind of brought the Warren Gatland attitude to us. But you could argue that he went on too much with us. We blew up a little bit, but we had a small squad, and I think he just trained us so hard. I think we won 8 or 9 on the bounce in him, didn't we? 8 or 9 on the bounce.
Yeah, we had a good run.
10 on the bounce.
Yeah.
And we still ended up qualifying for the league, didn't we? I think, and so that was great. But he got the sack because obviously that was too much success. He had his own way, and then Tommy come in, and I had, we had a couple of great years under Tommy, but as you could just see, the budget was slowly but surely started to dwindle a little bit, but I got great times with Tommy as well, great character, and I just always felt that we were a tight bunch, and I just feel a bit from that. Sadly, as I watched on, you could see that they were just like, we were the poorest, most poorly funded region out of them all, weren't we, for the period of time?
Yes.
We was getting less than all the others, and continually probably punching above our weight. But because some of these stats have come out with guys on win percentage, but what I tell you what would be good to know is playing budgets for year on year on year would be a good to say if you really want to start comparing,
Yeah, I'll give Dragons has done that, doesn't it? Whereas most clubs have stayed level and some have risen sharply.
Yeah. But the only thing is, I think Tony was paying, bear the cost of Percy's wages and bits and pieces around the stat. He also paid for Bobby Skinstat to come in for 3 months, didn't he? If you remember, I think there was a couple of stuff like that. But no, I've had great times, and supporters were great with me, and I've got great affinity and love for the region,
Oh, great stuff. Who were the best players you played with at the Dragons then, Jay? Who would you say you really enjoyed playing with?
I'd say Percy. I think there's a few. Percy, he's got to be up there. Definitely for me. For a forward, to get up. he just like someone's got a kicking game like that and put you back. You know, we didn't win an area when we never played a lot of rugby in our own half, and just put you down there, and then you just try and get on top. That was fantastic. But Colin Jarvis was a very good player. Very, you know, honestly, training wise, he was bloody. He trained like Jane, played like Tarzan. He was all in training. He couldn't catch a ball. You asked the boys, he was over. Then he just flipped the switch, and this real top operator. And but there's been a few. I mean, Michael Owen was a top player for me to play with, very, very clever. And I'd be a risk for me, but my favourite player to play with was Fozzie. You know, me and him bounced off each other well, and he was very, very good, skillful, but tough and uncompromising player. You know, so no. So we had some very good players, but but I'd say if you had to pin me down, I'd say Percy.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had Colin Jarvis on the pod, and he said how much he enjoyed his time at the Dragons. And he said the same as you, Jay. Tight bunch, never say die attitude. And I just wish the Dragons had what you guys had back then.
Yeah.
You know, I think we need a bit more grit, and we don't seem to have it as in the Paul Turner coach. Days, you know?
I think there was quality though as well.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I also think, I don't know where this might, but you know what's gone out the game a little bit more, and they're having to ride, but it's because of maybe playing budgets when they would die with no more. But your stock experienced 31-year-old regional player now doesn't exist. You know, in my opinion, if he is a good player, they normally have gone to France or they've gone to England. It doesn't exist anymore. You're left with either, you know, you've got guys who come up through academy, promising players, or you've got your 20, 30 cap, your international players, and then that's taking up a lot of your budget, and you're filling that in with kids almost. So there's the conundrum, I suppose. And I watch them, and I admire so much about the way that they're playing, what they're about. But I think they need, you know, somebody maybe a second row with a bit of hard edge, good 10. Just a couple of players to get them over the line in these type games. And I think once they start sort of got that mentality, I think they'll start to become a place that people don't want to come to in the moment. I think it's that place where people come there. It's a lovely ground now. It's got lovely stand. It's just not quite got the same as when Wasps and people like that come in. It's like go to the away change rooms down the bottom. It was like, you know, it was a shock to the system for them. you know?
Yeah, we spoke about it on the pod, haven't we? I think Rodney Parade, it was an intimidating place, wasn't it, for visiting teams and supporters. Nobody really liked going there now, and I've spoke before about the Gav. It's kind of lost its edge a little bit.
Oh, but we used to do this thing. We used to run up to the halfway and run round alongside the opposition when they were warming up. Do you remember that? And they used to come down the far side. Some used to come down and then back down in front of the Hazel stand, and the crowd used to go berserk. And it's all, you know, it's all mind games, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's like, but people used to say, you read up and say, oh, it's a hard place to go. I used to love reading that because that's the place. That's the people that start to say. Then that's when you're thinking, well, we must be doing something right.
The culture is changing, though, isn't it? Because we had David Buttress on, and he was saying he took a regional game up to Ebbw Vale.
Yeah.
And like I said, the players just couldn't, or like the Dragons players couldn't believe how bad the infrastructure was, and the you know, and I'm an Ebbw Vale boy, I know what it's like up there, but
that was my feeder club. So if I had injury and whatever, I used to go up to Ebbw. That's another thing. So so if you were injured, you'd have a feeder club that you go out to and have game time with. So me. And then later on for me, I think it was Welsh. I think Dan Lydia played for Ebbw Vale a few times as well.
We did, yeah.
But it was great. But I used to go there because my dad used to play for Ebbw, so I was like, right, I'll play there. So I know, but you had to sort of get that bit of fitness to come back, and it's like that doesn't seem to happen much anymore, does it?
But I think there's just a generation of players now who don't know what rugby was like not that long ago. You know, you played in the pro era, and you can remember playing in these terrible changing in these terrible changing rooms and stuff.
Yeah.
And now everyone's used to high quality weight rooms and nutritionists and stuff.
And I think it's great. Like, you can't think everything has to evolve. I mean, nothing ever has to stay the same. But you've got to try and, you know. And I've got to be honest, he's trying to work on bringing certain cultures into the Dragons, because I've had a chat to him, and he's also trying to get the ex-players thing going. They're trying to do certain things, but also I think you just got, you start winning to habit. You start winning a few games. You start winning games at home, and then that'll come. I'm convinced. I thought that I was really optimistic for this season, but for one reason or another, a couple of injuries and keep position, it hasn't happened. But
we were at the start.
I'm optimistic for the fact that I think they've got everything right off the field. I just think there's a couple of things stopping them kicking on a little bit now, but be interesting to see how it unfolds, because like anything really, there's questions when we're in this sort of phase of Welsh rugby. There's going to be questions asked, and people are going to want this changed, that changed, and you've got to make sure they've got your own house in order, haven't you?
No, absolutely. So you feel Dragons are going in the right direction, even though we have struggled a lot in previous years, Jay, but you feel like off the field and on the field is going.
We're in a better shape off the field than it's ever been, ever. We've in terms of my period, Martin, in terms of, you could argue, like, to a certain extent, when Martin was on the board and you had Tony on the board, you could argue then they were equally of strength at the time. But just the way that things are commercially, in terms of the way they've been structured, in terms of Johnny West was doing a good job there. I think they're in the best shape off the field they ever have been. It's just now they bought it back off the Union. I just think they need a couple of things to click into gear now. But like I said earlier, the barometer is winning rugby matches.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's all about results. That's the only way that the crowds are going to come back to Rodney Parade, isn't it? People want to see winning rugby, they don't want to see a losing team week in, week out. And it is tough. I'm at Rodney Parade every week. It's tough.
And I think for them, it's a little bit different, the fans. They don't get me wrong, they want you to win. But I tell you one thing is, what matters to them is they want to know that you mean it. I think that they're more about that than anything. They'll back you. You get beat, they'll still back you, but you got to make sure that they know that you're putting your heart and soul into it, and they will get behind you.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I think we leave it there, Jay. You've been an absolute pleasure to speak to. You've been a fantastic
Thank
guest.
You guys.
And we really appreciate you coming on.
Nice to have a trip down memory lane, boys. Good stuff.
Take it easy.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jamie.
Take care, Jamie.
Guys.
Now.
Yeah, bye now.
Cheers. Bye now. There you go, Jamie Ringer. That was a good chat. I enjoyed that.
It was. Yeah, it was wide ranging as well. We talked about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. They often when it's difficult to give the game up. He didn't seem to have an issue with it. It's
yeah. No, it's fair enough. He's enjoying being in the finance game. It sounds like he was quite keen to get out of rugby. He was a good player, Jamie Ringer, for the Dragons. Yes. He was one of those players. I think we could do with somebody like Jamie Ringer now. I've had this conversation with my dad. There are certain players that we had then that we need now. Like, we need a Reinhard Landman now. We need a Colin Chavis now. We need a Jamie Ringer. There's certain guys of that caliber that we need in this Dragons team just to add a bit of steel. He was a good player, really hard crafter.
I think, I had this chat with some other friends of mine, like in podcasting, Grav from Rock and Roll and Rhiannon Garth Jones, who goes on there quite a lot as well. And they were saying that's because you're old, Gav. But I genuinely think what we need is a couple of hard bastards. There's nothing wrong with having a hard bastard in your back row and your second row who's just going to hit stuff, like hit racks, hit tackles. Martin Johnson, not a gifted player, won England the World Cup on the back of just being hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And he should have had more than 2 Wales caps as well, in my opinion, Jamie Ringer. He should have had far more, but just competition in the back row, I guess, wasn't it?
It was, you had Williams at the time, didn't you? You had Chavis, there were a lot of players.
Yeah, okay then. Shall we move on then to talk about the Bulls game on Saturday? So let's talk about Saturday night then. So the Dragons hosted the Bulls, and it was a plucky effort for the men of Gwent. It ended up finishing 31-10 to the visitors, with the Bulls having secured their bonus point with the clock in the red. A scoreline which I think, Gav, is a little harsh on the Dragons. I don't think it quite reflects their efforts. I think there was a lot positive to take out of that game, considering the Bulls are second and we were bottom. They came down here with World Cup winners, and it could have been a very tough night. But I think we made them work hard for it. What was your thoughts on the game, Gav? What did you make of it all?
I think, as Jamie said, I thought Tim Basham had a good game. Like he was getting over the game line. He was doing all the stuff he needed to do. I think Kai Evans, but then we've both been Kai Evans fans anyway. I thought Kai Evans had a great game. He was so unlucky. I was convinced quite early on that was a 50-22, and that'd have been a great position. When he's just hacked it through quite low and it's bounced through. Yeah, what let us down, and I'm going to say the word again, and if you're playing the Dragon's Lair drinking game, you might need to start drinking quite heavily now. Just lack of leadership, lack of game management, wasn't it? That's what let us down.
I knew you'd talk about that.
Well,
lack of leadership.
I do talk about it a lot, but I think because it's evident in every game we watch, Jamie, it's not because I'm obsessed with leadership, and I do like very basic rugby. I'm not going to pretend for 1 second I am interested in flinging the ball about. I don't care less. I want to win games, and if you win games by shoving the ball in their half and rolling it in from a maul every time, then do that. But we don't have players who think like that.
No. Good to see Ben Carter make his return from injury. Dave Flanagan said he's bulked up, and I thought to myself, watching from the stands, he looked a lot bigger. I was quite disappointed with the yellow cards. Will Reid yellow carded for kicking the ball out of the Bull scrum half's hands from an offside position. Now, look, I like Will Reid. I think he's a talented young lad, but he's really got to start wising up a little bit. You can get away with that sort of thing in the Welsh Premiership, playing for Newport AFC. You are not going to get away with that playing in the URC. I just think he needs to show a little bit more game management and, being a bit smarter with his decisions. I know he's young and he's learning. It's difficult, isn't it?
But who's he learning from? That would be my question. Because I like Angus. He's a great player. But is he going to teach Will Reid how to be a top-class 10? No, he isn't. You need somebody who's just going to have an arm around the shoulder to say, come on, mate. And Paul Turner was a great 10, but Paul Turner was a great 10 in a very different generation. We need somebody who's just going to guide Will Reid for what it is to be a 10 in regional rugby in this era of rugby. Because playing for Newport is very different to playing for the Dragons. The game played at Newport is very different. If you watch Championship and Premiership rugby, it doesn't look like regional rugby. It's far more old-fashioned. There's lots more running about.
No, absolutely. And you're not playing against World Cup winners, are you?
No.
The Welsh Premiership, let's be honest, this is a different calibre of player.
You're not playing against guys like Willie LaRue, who has won 2 World Cups.
Yes, exactly. The other yellow card, it was a bit of a shame, really, because I thought he played well. Elliot D came off the bench. Brodie Coghlan came off. I think he took a knock. I think it was concussion. He came off. And he had a good game overall, Elliot D. He took his form from Wales into that game, but then he got yellow carded for slapping the ball out the scrum half's hands. And you're like, oh, come on, Elliot. It was a real shame because, he had such a good Six Nations, and he was born out of frustration, I think. It was just one of those things. But it was just a real shame because he had a good game. And like I say, he played great for Wales, but that was another yellow card. And both of those yellow cards led to Bulls tries. That was the other frustrating thing. It was unnecessary and it led to 2 of their tries. So pretty disappointing to see that, I think.
But that's the issue. And again, take a drink. But it's the leadership thing, isn't it? It's just somebody saying, screw your heads on, boys. Let's keep our discipline. Let's be sensible here. Because what's going to happen? What is going to happen in that situation when you slap a ball out of nine's hand? What do you think is going to happen? One thing's going to happen. You're going to get penalised for it. There's no brain to it. I thought Brodie Coghlan had played well as well, till he went off. I thought, he's... How old is he? Is he 22?
Early 20s, yeah.
Yeah, he was playing against some hard players and he really got himself around. I thought, the scrum was all right.
It struggled. It did struggle, but we expected that. That did not surprise me in the slightest.
When you saw we'd selected, but there's a thing that, and again, me being overly technical, again, something that does happen occasionally on the pod. Sean Lonsdale's Sean Lonsdale is playing a flanker, but But instead of driving the prop and holding the prop, well, he did hold the prop in, but that's all he did. He was at such an angle, his bind, he's got no power there because his arm is extended onto the second row. And all he's doing is kind of driving the prop into the scrum. Well, I find that you need to do that so you're not getting popped out. But then you're not driving. And he wasn't giving the second row any ballast. So, and it was so frustrating. And Lonsdale is fine as a player. I'm not getting excited about him, but he's perfectly fine as a player. But he is a second row. Shove him in the second row. Keep him there.
Yeah. The one thing I was pleased with, from a Dragons point of view, was our physicality.
Yeah.
I thought we really fronted up in this game. Our physicality, we matched them. I thought a really big team, and you want to see them in the flesh, Gav, this Bulls pack. They're absolutely huge.
I can imagine.
We looked very small in comparison, but I thought we fronted up physically. We took them on, and we did frustrate them at times during that game. One of my favourite moments was Rodney Williams. I don't know if you saw that shove he did. I mean, I would not be picking a fight with guys who are just shy of 20 stone. I mean, Rodri is only 12. He's listed as 12 stone. But he took on two South African forwards, Gerard Steenkamp and Wilco Lau. And he held his own. I thought it was a proper shithouse move. It was great to see it.
Yeah.
We were getting under their skin. We were frustrating the Bulls.
Lowe looked so confused when that happened. He was just looking at him going, what? Oh, pardon? But they did get frustrated. There was a couple of times with Willie LaRue, when he's got it all his own way, is like a Rolls Royce. He just purrs. But when he gets frustrated, he does some of the stupidest things ever. He's a bit like Gareth Davis, forever better than Gareth Davis. But Gareth Davis, when he's on top, great. When he isn't, just does the stupidest things. And there was a couple of times where Willie LaRue just did daft things, kicked when he didn't need to.
Yeah, but he did get player of the match, Willie LaRue. If you follow South Africa rugby Twitter, if you're unfortunate to delve into it,
I avoid
Willie
that.
LaRue is, it's a good idea. Although they say Welsh rugby Twitter's bad, wait till you see South African rugby Twitter. However, he's a very divisive player, because he cops a lot of online abuse. But there are people who love him, but he does get a lot of abuse from South African fans. He did have a good game. He did set up those two tries. And I think that's why he got it, to be honest.
I thought he played very well, but there were a couple of times when he did Willie LaRue things. But he didn't have many brain farts. But he's a very... I can remember, oh God, it'd be when we toured to South Africa 8 years ago, 10 years ago maybe, and he was just a cut above.
Yeah, he's a class player. For me, the Dragons, you couldn't question the effort. And there have been a couple of times, as you know, on this pod, and when I've spoken on rap, I have questioned the desire and the work rate in certain games. You couldn't do that last night. They were not lacking in spirit. They were not lacking in attitude. The fact of the matter is, the Bulls were just too good, and they were too strong for us. If we're going to use a Premier League football analogy, to me, last night, it was Manchester City and up against Sheffield United. That's what it felt like to me. Sheffield United, they're struggling, they're at the bottom, they're fighting hard, but when they come up against your Arsenals, your Man Cities, etc., there's only going to be one winner. And that's how it felt like to me. And Willie LaRue, talking about Willie LaRue, he did say after the game when he accepted his player of the match award, the Dragons played really well, so credit to them. They made it very tough for us. So, they gave us some respect after the game. That's good to see.
There's a team who could win the URC, feasibly. If the Bulls won it, you wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. And we made them work for that bonus point.
Yeah. Oh, we absolutely did.
And I have watched some Dragons games I've watched all the Dragons games this season that have been televised, and there's a couple of them that have felt like an absolute chore. That didn't feel like a chore. That was a decent game of rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of Willie LaRue, now there's been a lot of talk after the game with Dragon supporters on social media about the referee. Di Flanagan was livid at the decision not to award a deliberate knock-on against Willie LaRue.
Oh, yes.
With 8 minutes to go, the score was 17-3 and the Dragons were attacking in the 22. It was very bizarre. So Willie LaRue made no attempt to catch that ball. It was a clear, deliberate knock on. Referee played advantage. We went through a couple of phases. They turned the ball over, and that was it. They won the penalty. They didn't come back, and they didn't review the incident. Now, Guy Flanagan said this after the game. I felt we deserved more. There are some big decisions that did not go our way. There's a position where the 15, LaRue, has got back to his post, one arm tapping the ball down. There's no chance he can catch that ball.
No.
If he can, I love people to show me a repetition of how you catch the ball that way. After the game, Guy Flanagan was pretty miffed on SOC. And it's very unlike Guy Flanagan. He's normally quite reserved. He's not the kind of guy to come out and start criticising officials, but he was not happy. Do you think he has a point, Gav?
I don't think the ref had a good game.
No, he didn't, did he? No.
He was bad for both sides. He made poor decisions that affected the Bulls as well. The Willie LaRue thing, I don't understand. You know, I genuinely don't understand how that wasn't at least a penalty, maybe a yellow card, because unless he has hands the size of a large pizza and physics work differently, he's not catching that ball, is he?
No, and he didn't even make an attempt. I watched it again today. There was zero attempt. He just tapped it down. He knew exactly what he was doing, and it was really disappointing that the referee and the TMO just didn't review that. That should have been reviewed. And I just felt the referee, he was reffing on reputation. The Bulls had a lot of calls go their way. It didn't feel like we got the rub of the green on certain decisions. So I think I can feel quite rightly miffed about that.
There was a few scrummaging decisions as well, where they tighted as just, isn't straight.
Boring in, yeah.
Yeah, and that is something that frustrates me. Andrew Porter has spent the last 2 years doing it for Ireland and no one seems to care. But the laws are you have to be straight, and he wasn't. And the ref wasn't paying enough attention to that.
No, absolutely. It was frustrating. But on the whole, I thought this was a decent Dragons performance. Like I said, all things considered, we are playing one of the best teams in the URC, a big, powerful Bulls team who are tipped by many people to win the URC. It was always going to be a struggle, but I thought it was okay. It wasn't as bad as what we thought, Gav, overall, was it?
It wasn't men versus boys, was it?
No.
Like if you consider when we played the Lions and the Sharks, out there, that was men versus boys.
Yeah. Oh, this was a hell of an improvement on those games. Absolutely, on Cardiff and Munster and many other games Cardiff, you could probably list. This felt like but like I said, I was pleased with how we fronted up the physicality. I thought, and it was right to go for a 6-2 split as well. I thought that worked well. I saw a couple of fans go, "Why are we playing 6-2?" But it's the right decision. I would even stick with that for the Zebre game. I would stick with the 6-2 if I'm being honest. But we'll see how it goes.
I don't think we've got a lot of depth in the backs anyway, have we?
No, it's fair enough. Okay, then. So, that was that then. Let's move on to some news now, and then we'll do your rugby roundup. Sure. So, just a couple of bits of news. Dragons have signed a scrummaging prop. Can you believe it, Gav? It was never catch on, wasn't it?
When you sent me that message, and I said, as I said to you, I said, "Oh my word, what are we doing? Get a scrummaging prop?"
Yes, absolutely. So, Dragons have signed former Ospreys and Cardiff tight end Dimitri Arhip on a short-term deal. So, the 35-year-old Moldovan, he's been without a club after his time at Cardiff was unfortunately brought by an end by that really nasty Achilles injury that he suffered in February 2023. So Dragons are short at tight head. There's no Lloyd Fairbrother. There's no Leon Brown, of course. We don't know when he's returning. There's been no news about Leon. And Nathan Evans, who plays for Newport FC, he's injured as well. So they brought him in as injury cover. On the face of it, this looks like a shrewd signing, doesn't it, Gav?
Yeah, he is not getting round the park. Let's all prepare ourselves for that. If you want Dimitri Arhip running short lines a la Rhys Carey.
But you can scrummage.
Yeah,
and that's what we want.
And that's all he'll do. But that's what tight heads are there for. Don't give tight heads the idea that they actually contribute to the game other than scrummaging. It'll be fine. It's a good. We both said, didn't we, when we were chatting about it, that he's probably the best scrummager of the team now.
Oh, he's instantly the best scrummaging tight end at the club now. And as much as I like Lloyd Fabre, and we have missed him at scrum time, we know Leon scrummaging is not one of his greatest assets, and Chris Coleman can't scrummage. And yeah, he's absolutely, he is the best scrummaging tight end. No offense, Chris, if you're listening, but he's our best scrummaging tight end.
He was always a great scrum. He was a great scrummager at Ospreys, great scrummager at Cardiff. You know, he's from Moldova. I don't know what Moldova's like, but I imagine they just make hard men like him and not a lot else. You know,
yeah, I think it's good work by the club. I think it's a shrewd piece of business.
You know, it'll do for the rest of the season, won't it? And it'll show our scrum up, and you know, he'll bring a bit of physicality as well.
Would you chuck him straight in the starting 15 against Zebre, or would you just break him in gently and have him come off the bench?
Oh, we've got Chris Coleman. I like Chris Coleman. I'm sure he's a lovely bloke. He can't scrummage at that level. I'm sure Chris Coleman can scrummage at Newport RFC level and Premiership level, but he's not scrummaging at, you know, and look at the guys he's coming up against. And for Zebre, he'll be coming up against international players. You know, there'll be guys on the Italian squad there. It'll be pointless. Let's get a platform, and let's get a platform by scrummaging solidly.
Okay. Dave Flanagan gave an update on Tame Basham because talks are going on. There's a lot of silly rumours flying around at the moment about Tame. Apparently, he's already signed a deal with a Scarlet, so that's going to be announced soon. Some bloke on Facebook is saying he's training with Gloucester. I don't quite know how that's happening. I can't imagine Dave Flanagan's letting Tame train with Gloucester, but there's all sorts of nonsense rumours.
He'd be in breach of contract if he was training with Gloucester.
Some bloke on Facebook just chatting shit, I think. But anyway, he gave an update. He said there is an intention from both parties to get it right. Hopefully there will be news very soon on multiple things. And then he talked about the recruitment that the Dragons are doing or have done. He says a lot of business has been done. It's just not been announced yet. There will be some news soon, and there are some critical decisions still to make. But we have a lot of stuff already done that we are proud of. So it sounds like Dragons have been quite busy in the recruitment market. And when he says critical decisions, what do you think that is? Do you think that's to do with the likes of Leon and maybe letting go the likes of Gonzalo Bertranu and C.O. Tompkinson, who I would like us to keep, but budget cuts probably mean we're going to have to let him go?
I think it's exactly that. I think it's Leon, it's Gonzalo Bertranu, it's C.O. Tompkinson. It's our big expensive ones, isn't it? I like C.O. Tompkinson, but he hasn't brought a lot this season. Well,
he's been injured, and he's been difficult for him really to make an impact this season.
Bertranu's been away, he's been injured. You've got to cut your cloth accordingly, haven't you? And scrum half, we're all right for. Centres, we're all right for. So where we really need to spend the money is at 10 and at second row.
Yeah. This is not official news, but I have heard on the grapevine that Gonzalo Bertrand and Ollie Griffiths have picked up fresh knocks, unfortunately. So, keep your eyes peeled for that.
Ollie Griffiths.
That's what I've heard.
Ollie Griffith can't win a break, can he? Bless him.
No. And, it's a shame, isn't it? Because I was having this conversation with somebody at Rodney's bar before the game started. We all like Ollie. He's brilliant on his day, but he doesn't play. Doesn't play for us, does he?
No.
And we gotta make some tough decisions now with the budgets coming down. I don't know. I agree with what Chris Kerwin said. Do you remember when we had Chris Kerwin from the South Wales Argus on the pod? He said the problem with the Dragons is we've held on for players for probably too long. Players we probably should have let go. And I think Ollie's in that bracket. As much as I love the guy, as good as he is, but I just can't ever imagine a time where he's going to have a season where he's not going to get injured and be missing large chunks of it when he's with us or another club.
Think of any business. If you've got somebody who you're paying to do a job who can't do the job for more than half the year, it's probably time to let go of him. Same with Leon as well. I like Leon, but I like elements of Leon's play, but he's injured all for Wales. We need to start winning games, And that's with a squad that's going to win us games. You know, I hope when he says all the exciting things we're pleased with, big horrible second rows, please, and a 6 who just snots people. I'll be happy with that.
I would like a couple of South Africans or two, I would. Because I
Yeah,
think South Africans are good rugby players. They had steel, they had a bit of grit. That's why I would like us to sign.
I'd happily take a South African, Kiwis, wherever, you know, but South Africans definitely that grit. Maybe a mad Fijian back rower just for excitement.
Did you notice Max Clark? He's been starting games for Cardiff. He started again at 13 for Cardiff up in Glasgow. So I wonder, will Cardiff look to sign him permanently? Or will we try to keep hold of him? I think we'll let him go. Especially if we've got Joe Westwood and then even know, and I think they're going to look to the future. But
Harry Ackerman,
of course, yeah.
I think they'll let him go because he didn't really do a lot for us last season, did he? You know, he was fine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He wasn't poor. He wasn't bad, but he didn't quite have the impact I thought he would have. I haven't watched him for Bath.
When he came from Bath, I thought, yeah, he's a decent player. Yeah. But who was the lad that? Oh God, I should remember this. Winger that Thingy brought in, that Dean Ryan brought in. The English lad on the wing. Oh God, he had Nigerian
English
name.
Oh, you're talking about played for Leicester.
Yeah.
Oh, I know exactly. Jordan, someone was there. Olafelwa, was it?
Oh yes, Jordan Olafelwa. Yeah, that's exactly who he was. We got there eventually.
Yeah,
when
my
he
mind
came
went
there,
blank.
When he came there, he looks deep, and then he wasn't. You know.
Yeah, he looked very good in Super Rugby because I think he went on loan, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think was it the Force he played for?
Yes.
I'm not sure, but he went to Super. He scored a shitload of tries, and we signed him on loan. He's like, oh yeah, this is great, and no, he wasn't great. Far from it.
His defensive style appeared to be just ushering players through. Through you can, boys. Through you can.
He was no Jonah Holmes, was he, Gav?
No, he was no Jonah Holmes, but very few people are Jonah Holmes.
I know. Oh, the other thing I'd say, just before we move on to your Gwent Rugby Roundup, we was in McCann's Rock and Nail Bar, having pre-match pints, me and Dad. Somebody inexplicably put on ELO's Mr. Blue Sky on the jukebox, and I thought of you straight away. And I thought to myself, if only Gav was here now to hear this. And the jukebox was blasting, by the way. It was really loud. We had ELO with full blast.
I love McCann's. It's one of the best pubs in the town, in the city.
Brilliant jukebox.
What are they doing allowing that on there? It's all right. We were in the change rooms, and the Hastings changing room is opposite ours, and one of their players has brought down a thing, and they played it as well pre-game. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Oh dear. Okay, so it's time for your Gwent Rugby Roundup, and there was a big Gwent derby up at Evervale on the weekend, wasn't it, Gav?
There was. It sadly did not go the way of the Steelmen. Newport winning it 31-25. Both teams are in the playoffs anyway. Llandovery will win it, I imagine. Llandovery look the strongest side in that league. But, Newport and Evervale are playing well. There's lots of good rugby there. I think, and Newport are the second best team in the league. So I deserve a victory for the Black and Ambers. Then Pontypool also keeping up to Gwent End. They beat Neath 40-24 away. So Pontypool 5th in the league, Evervale 3rd, Newport 2nd, doing well in the Prem. In the Championship, not many games played, but Cross Keys in the Gwent Derby, very close Gwent Derby, beat Newbridge 21-10. And Penaltha lost 28-47 at home to Cardiff Met. So going down into Division 1, lots of rugby played there. Bedlinog lost 17-25 at home to Abergavenny. Blaenavon lost 14-0 at home to Talawain. Monmouth went away to Dowlais and lost 22-17. Risca went away in an absolute barnstorming game in Nelson, lost 46-43. Pontypool United did not have a lovely trip to St. Gennes, where they lost 73-0. And Bryn Mawr, who are top of Division 1, beat NSD 36-22. Into Division 2, Blackwood beat Pill Harriers 38-35, and another classic. Caerleon lost 17-46 at home to Abdleri Blaen y Gwent. Cwmbran a 55-10 win at home against Oakdale. Gaernarfon lost 10-26 at home to Croes y Ceiliog. And in the other posh Welsh bit of Derby, Ask lost 15-16 at home to Caldicot. Into Division 3, another classic down at Abercarn. God, I bet that's did you ever play at Abercarn as a kid?
Yeah, I have
Jamie?
been at Abercarn FC. Yeah, I've been up there.
God, that's not a nice place to play. Abercarn beat Rumney 39-34, Gwent Rumney as opposed to Cardiff one. RTB Ebervale lost 14-17 at home, the local derby against Nandy Globe. Into Division 4, Bedwellty lost 20 points to 3 at home to Betos. New Panteg beat Crumlin 26-15 away. Havod which I didn't realise until very recently, is a regional side. It's in the Valleys. They won 52-26 against New Tredegar. Newport Saracens beat Crickhowell 40-26, and Whitehead lost at home 10-15 against Gwynedd. Into Division 5, Beaufort lost 13-18 against Forge side, and Pontefract, who'd been unbeaten most of the season, lost 16-15 away to Hollybush. And then into Division 6, where Girling did not have a great day, they lost 132-0 away to Derry. That's they've conceded 260 points in the last 3 games, Girling.
Good gosh.
It's
tough times.
They and I don't know enough about the club, but I imagine they are pulling out old boys again anyone they can, and it's never easy then. Old Tolarian lost 10-32 at home to Hartridge High School Old Boys, and Tredegar Ironside beat Mago 33-3. A lot of rugby played in the Gwent Valleys this weekend.
You must be disappointed with our Ebervale result then, Gav.
Yeah, I am. But, that's one each in the derbies between them. But I think Ebervale have had a really good season. Pleased with where they are, 3rd in the league. It's, for a club that was really down on its uppers 10 years ago, we've done very well. It's and good to see Pontypool there. And we're well represented in wherever that league is meant to be. The league is going to be very different, but it will be exactly the same.
Yeah, probably. Is Jason Strange at Ebervale? Is that your coach there now, Jason Strange? I think he's there now.
Yes.
Yeah, he's doing a good job, isn't he?
Yeah,
good job.
It's well set up. I think it's a difficult place to come and play.
Yeah.
It's a very old-fashioned rugby ground, and it's
bloody cold as well.
It is.
It's cold up there.
Cold up there. Yeah. I think Gwent Rugby's in a strong enough place at the minute.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Okay, then. Thank you for that, Gav. Let's have a look ahead now to Good Friday. So, Dragons, they are hosting Zebre Parma at Rodney Parade on Friday night. Kickoff 7:35. The game is live on BBC Two Wales. Now, results on the weekend did not go Dragons' way.
They did not.
So, Sharks beat Ulster 22-12, which I could see happening, to be honest. I think a few Ulster fans got a little bit carried away after they win over us, and we had 19 players missing. I think they thought that they were going to go to South Africa and roll the Sharks over, but I'm not surprised that they lost. Then the Scarlets got a lucky win against Benetton, 16-13. However, Zebre lost to Leinster, 31-7. Now, in terms of the URC table, the bottom 4, so in 16th place, rock bottom, it's us, the Dragons. We are on 11 points. Then in 15th place, you got Zebre, who are on 14 points. The Sharks are on, Zebre are 15th, and then the Sharks are 14th. They're on 14 points. And then you got the Scarlets in 13th. They're on 16 points.
That was a good win for them as well. Yeah, very good win.
It was a good win, yeah. A bit lucky, but like I said, they needed a win and they got it. And then you got Cardiff then in 12th, who are on 23 points. Ospreys are 11th. I don't know if you saw that game against Munster. Ospreys did really well, apart from giving them intercept tries. It's a very strange game that was. They should have got something out of that. But yeah, so that's how it's looking in the bottom four. It's a bit of a dogfight. Now, this game against Zebre, Gav, there's no doubt about it. It's must win, isn't it? It's as simple as that. No excuses. We have got to win. If we're going to try and avoid being the worst team in the URC, because this game could decide who finishes bottom of the table. Yeah. With the Sharks on 14, Zebre, Scarlet 16, Dragons 11 points. Like I said, it's simple as that. This is must win.
And we've been saying this for a long time now, haven't we, Jamie? We have been saying this must win, and it absolutely is now. Because how do you convince anyone to come to a club that's bottom of the pile? Yeah, and I'm talking fans and players.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. The Dragons, yes, we've struggled for a long time. We all know that. To my knowledge, and I've checked the tables, we've never finished bottom of a league. We've never finished bottom of a conference. Now, we were lucky that Zebre sort of propped up the table. But I think the Dragons are in real danger now of finishing bottom of the URC. And for me, this is a must-win game. There's no excuses now, because if we lose this, I just don't know. I don't think we can overtake the others. We have got to win on Friday.
Oh, no. If we don't win this, then we bugger, don't we?
Yeah. So how do you feel about this game now then, Gav? Have you seen enough from that Bulls performance to go into this game with a bit of hope and confidence that we can turn over Zebre? Because they are an improved team. We always think we should beat Zebre, but they are an improved team, and it's not going to be easy. And this game between Dragons and Zebre, it's never pretty. No. It's never a good game. It's a dogfight. It's a struggle. So how do you feel about it?
Well, my problem is we haven't been consistent at any point this season. We played well, and then the following week played absolutely dreadfully.
Yeah.
If you just think around that Christmas period against Cardiff, we were inept, and then played well enough against Scarlets. It's no consistency. So I don't know. We can beat Zebre. We should beat Zebre if we play the right rugby at the right times. Are we going to do that? I don't know. Who will we have available? I don't know. If we could get Elliott out, if we could get Wayno out. Yeah.
I think they'll play, and Rio will come back into the team because he was rested for this weekend, so I expect to see Rio Dyer. Now, Kai Evans did come off with a knock, so I don't know what's going to happen there. They might put Ewan Rosser at fullback like they did at Ulster. I'm not sure. David Richards, player who I like, David Richards. Now, he played for Newport against Ebervale, and he got through that, so he could be an option. I'd quite like to see him involved in the Dragons.
But if Kai isn't injured, play him at 10. Play him at 10.
Oh, so you want him at 10 instead of Will Reid then? You put him at 10.
I do. Just because his kicking game is better and his game management is better.
Some would say he's not really a 10 though, is he? That's what a lot of people are thinking. He's better as a fullback, but you're saying that you would have him at 10 for the
I think, and I would agree. I think he probably is a fullback, but he can play 10. He's played 10 for Wales. Not something I've done. So he's done more than me there, and we just need that game management and have Will Reid on the bench, because if we're on top, 15 minutes to go, then bring Will Reid on and get him running at tired legs and get him doing all the kind of the more expansive stuff. But let's spend 60 minutes every time we've got the ball in our off, shoving her in the corner, shoving her off the field, forcing them into mauls, just playing reductive rugby, but reductive rugby that keeps them down their end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we got to go as strong as possible for this.
Yeah.
We need all our best players available, and I know Zebre pose a different threat to the Bulls, but I would still stick with our 6-2 bench split, I would. I personally would, because our driving ball has been very good this season. That's been a weapon, and I was really pleased, like I said, of how we fronted up physically against the Bulls. I think we need to bring that into Zebre as well. Let's try and overpower them. Let's try to do what the Bulls did to us and just get our power game going and see if that gets us over the line.
Let's beat them up a bit.
Yeah.
I realise now that the more I listen back to our pods and think, my God, Gav, you sound like an old man, and I know I'm older, but you know, like there's this idea of rugby in the 70s and it was beautiful and it was free flowing, which it was. But I've never been an advocate of that. I like big horrible forwards smacking hell out of each other, and then giving space for wingers to run over. You know, it's and that's what I'd like us to see us doing for a bit.
Good old fashioned Gwent rugby, wasn't it? It was all about the forwards. That's what it was all about back then.
Well, you think about what we've created in the valleys. We've created forwards mainly. There's not many tens who've come from the Eastern Valleys, but there's lots of props and second rows and back rows who've come out of the Eastern Valleys.
And yet, for years, the Dragons have struggled having a decent scrum. It's mad, isn't it? You know, Gwent is renowned for forwards and good solid scrums, but we can't seem to produce one at the Dragons.
Yeah, but I think the problem is now the Valleys aren't producing those blokes anymore, are they? You know, it's
no, it's a fair point. Yeah, no, I agree.
They were hard men doing hard jobs, and then they would play hard rugby, and it's not there anymore. Rugby is an entirely different culture. Even in the crappy level I play, we played really hard fought game there, you know, and we can still win our league. And all the young boys went off. Oh well, I'm not going to have a beer. Rugby is changing. I have to change with it.
Times have changed, Gav. You sound like an old man now, but times have changed.
No, but I have to move with it, Jamie. I can't imagine that we all do the same thing, you know.
No,
forever.
Right then, let's wrap this up. So, prediction time. I'm predicting the Dragons win by 8 points. And this could probably bite me on the backside, but I just got a feeling that the boys will know this is a must win. They've got to try and put everything they can into this game. And I think we will win by 8 points. What are you thinking, Gav?
Well, I was going to say 8 points as well, but I think it's going to be a weird 8 points. I think it's going to be 33-25 or something like that.
Yeah. I don't think the Dragons are going to make it easy for themselves, are they? Because they never do. And I hate watching this game because it is a real dogfight between these two struggling teams. Like, you know, I watched that Zebre game when we played them in Europe in Parma. I paid to watch that. I paid £7.
I told you not to.
I know, and I knew as soon as I clicked payment, I knew I was going to regret it straight away. And boy, did I regret it!
I told you not to. I told you not to do it, but you still did it. But I think we're going to take quite a heavy lead, and then the last 20 minutes.
Go to sleep a bit.
Yeah, and we are going to be struggling to keep them out of the game.
Right, so, sorry, what was the score prediction, Gav?
33-25, 8 points. I agree with 8 points.
Right, so we're both going with 8. There we go. Okay, well, that was a good pod, wasn't it? Got through quite a lot there. Thanks to our guest, Jamie Ringer. He was really good. Pleasure to chat to him. Thank you, as always, Gav, for tonight. And we'll be back next week where hopefully, we will talk about the Dragons win, because it feels like a long time since that happened. You know, we've got to go back to New Year's Day, I think, isn't it?
Yes. Our
last Dragons win.
Game,
so please win this weekend, Dragons, because, you know, I'm fed up with talking about defeats on this podcast. I'm fed up with talking about defeats on rap, and with Wales not winning, I really want to start talking about victories because I'm bored of talking about defeats now. It's getting me down. Okay, so until next time, we wrap next week. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you all. Bye.